G'day everyone and welcome to Pokestraya. I'm Jordan and we're back on the Pokemon trading card game online. Apologies for doing so much PTCGO over the last couple of days. It's been pretty busy and I haven't really been able to record much else other than PTCGO. Hopefully over the next couple of days I can shake it up a bit and do something a bit different. Today we are going to be taking a look at a bit of a random roguish deck in Primal Kyogre. A deck that was in the 2014, I want to say, when Primal Clash first came out. I think it was 2014, 2015, early 2015 maybe. Primal Kyogre was actually a pretty big deck when it first came out. It was a very strong deck back then. Things such as Keldeo Ax really helped the deck, and also there wasn't so much grass support in the format. However, over a period of time, Primal Kyogre's kind of just gone down. Hasn't really seen much play at all, really. It'll pop up here and there, but doesn't really do too good. One of the main reasons it stayed out of last format was because of Vespiquen and Vileplume. Just grass decks in general just kind of run over Primal Kyogre, which is a bit of a shame. It does have a weakness to grass. So let's quickly look at this deck list here and play a couple of games with it. First up, we got this Primal Kyogre EX. There's a lot to this card, which I like about it. When you first look at this card, it doesn't look too good. 4 energies to do 150, not the best. But there's a lot of different things about this card which I like. Starting at the top, we got 240 HP. That's a lot of HP. Not many things in the current format can one-shot this thing. A Mega Rayquaza needs an entire bench filled to knock out a Primal Kyogre, which can be possible. Whether or not they choose to do that is a bit questionable, especially if you're able to drop a counter stadium and slow them down. They can come back to bite them by trying to one-shot this Primal Kyogre EX. This thing is a tank, so it's also got the Alpha Growth ability. When you attach an energy card from your hand to this Pokemon, except with an attacker ability or a trainer card, you may attach 2 energy cards. So now that 4 energy attack cost really only becomes 2 attachments, which is very, very good. And then the attack Tidal Storm isn't the best attack in the format, but definitely an interesting attack, and I think actually possibly a very strong attack. 150 damage to the basic, to the active Pokemon. Then you move 2 energy, from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. And then it does 30 damage to each of your opponent's benched EX Pokemon. Okay, so this thing goes from being this kind of average looking EX to a really good EX. Being able to move 2 energies from this Pokemon onto one of your bench Pokemon allows you to set up one of your bench Primal Kyogres or another attacker of your choosing. If a Primal Kyogre is close to being knocked out, this can save 2 energies from being discarded. Being able to do 30 sniped to multiple bench Pokemon at a time is also very good. Previously, we've seen Darkrai EX, one of the best decks in the recent years. It was seen a lot at Worlds, it saw a lot of play, and still seeing play and expanded. Only did 90 and 30 to one bench Pokemon. This does 150 and 30 to multiple Pokemon, depending on what your opponent has down. One of the best EX Pokemon in the game right now, Shaymin EX, has 110 HP. So if you're able to hit 4 Tidal Storms, you're doing 30 to those Shaymins every single turn. If your opponent isn't able to Sky Return to save those Shaymins, you're going to start knocking them out. Even if you do force your opponent to then Sky Return to save those prizes, you're perfectly okay with that, because we do play things like Rough Seas, making the damage that they do with a Sky Return just to save their Shaymin irrelevant. It can really slow your opponent's strategy down a whole heap. Also, just being able to do 30 to other EX Pokemon is very, very good. Being able to have so much damage on the board, having so much spread damage, so then you can Lysander up targets and start knocking things out. So that's a Primal Kyogre EX, a card that I think we'll probably see a bit more play. It has pretty good matchups. If we look at the Mega Mewtwo matchup, for example, 150 isn't knocking out a Mega Mewtwo. You're able to move 2 energies from this Pokemon onto one of your bench Pokemon. That means Mewtwo is going to need a lot of energy to knock it out. I think it's like Mewtwo needs like 6 energies. 180, yeah, 6 energies on a Mega Mewtwo to knock this thing out. If your opponent decides to do that, however, they've got 150 damage sitting on them. If they decide to damage change, that's not a big deal because you're still going to have backup attackers and you can slowly heal up this Primal Kyogre through the means of Rough Seas. So it is actually a pretty favourable matchup from what I've tested the Mewtwo matchup. I actually really like the Mewtwo matchup with this deck, and that's a reason why I'm showcasing this deck here today. I think if you're able to hit a lot of Mewtwo, possibly Mega Rayquaza, I think it's a decent Mega Rayquaza matchup. Not the best Mega Rayquaza matchup. Definitely not the worst Mega Rayquaza matchup, however. The high HP does help. 240 just means I have to have 8 bench Pokemon. And if you're able to drop a stadium down on them, then, you know, you really slow them down so much. And it becomes more favorable when that happens. There are a couple of other matchups to look at. Volcanion is easily this deck's best matchup. You just kind of run over Volcanion, and there's a reason that you could play a different card, which I'll talk about in just a moment, in this deck just for that Volcanion matchup. Either way, it's going to be a very favorable matchup, but there is another card that you could play to make it just go a bit quicker. And Mega Sizzle, finally. Mega Sizzle's a really funny match with this, because Mega Sizzle needs to attack twice to knock this thing out. With Rough Seas, that becomes a third time that they need to attack to knock out a Primal Kyogre, which is a lot. Having to attack 3 times to knock out one Pokemon is ridiculous. And we're not playing special energies here. They don't disrupt us at all. We do play something like Fisherman, as you can see in the bottom corner, so when they are crushing hammer away our basic energies, it's not a big problem, and Primal Kyogre can attach too. Mega Sizzle is not an issue for this deck. Even if they do Iron Crusher remove our Rough Seas, we've already healed the 30 damage. They still need to attack us 2 more times to knock us out. Unless they're playing something like Giovanni's Scheme or something. Even then, actually, they would need a Giovanni's twice to knock us out through Rough Seas, I think. So this Primal Kyogre, I think it's actually got a lot of great matchups across the board. The one very bad one is Vespiquen, just due to this grass weakness. I think maybe when Karen gets printed, maybe Primal Kyogre will see a bit more play. Let's take a look at some of the other Pokemon. Of course, Kyogre EX, not really going to be attacking with this thing too much. Water Pulse is a very strong attack. 30 damage and auto asleep. I think anything that's auto paralysis is very good. Probably too good. Anything that's auto asleep is okay. Of course, your opponent does have a 50% chance of waking up. However, if they don't wake up, you can really slow your opponent down a hell of a lot. You're unlikely to use this Water Pulse too many times. Maybe against Mega Mewtwo, if they've got the Shrine of Memories down, you could really slow them down there. That's also got Giant Whirlpool. I doubt you'll ever use this attack. 4 energies for this one, and you does 140 damage, and you return 2 water energy attached to this Pokemon to your hand. Pretty standard card. You're not really going to attack with this too much. Maybe the Water Pulse will come up occasionally. Next, we're going to play Manaphy Ax, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I think this deck becomes a lot better. We all saw Manaphy Ax with the Water Box deck. Aqua Tube is a very good ability. It's basically Darkrai's Dark Cloak. It allows any Pokemon that have a water energy attached to it to just be able to retreat for free. Primal Kyogre and normal Kyogre have a whopping 4 retreat cost. So if you are able to move those 2 energies, set up another Kyogre, you could attach 2 more from your hand, or you can just retreat into another Kyogre if you're not able to hit the other 2 energies. So Manaphy just kind of allows some free switching options. If you get Lysanded, it doesn't really become a problem. You can just drop an energy and retreat. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the other Pokemon playing this deck. Glaceon EX. There's a reason I'm playing this over other cards. I don't know how long I'll continue to play Glaceon. Pretty much until Vespiquen's gone, I'll probably play this Glaceon. I think Glaceon's probably the best Vespiquen counter, especially if they're not playing Ranger. Crystal Ray, 70 damage, and your opponent's evolution Pokemon can't attack this Pokemon. That's really good. Even if they're able to Lysander, you can just bring this thing up and Crystal Ray. The only real way around this is an Escape Rope Lysander play. Not many Vespiquen decks really play the Escape Rope. So this is just kind of really here for Vespiquen. Things like Mega Rayquaza, you can really stop them if they're not playing Ranger. Most of them are playing Ranger or Magearna. If they're not, however, Crystal Ray just can run all over them. And then we've also got the attack Second Bite, 20 damage and 10 more for each damage cannon on your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you're doing 150, you can bring this thing up to finish them off You can move 2 energies onto this, finish them off. You don't really need to though. I think Primal Kyogre is usually going to be alright. Having to 2-shot isn't the best thing in the world, but a lot of decks at the moment are currently 2-shotting, so I think that's kind of where Primal Kyogre is going to shine. Having a slower format than last allows Primal Kyogre to just be a little bit better. Next we're going to play 1 Regice. Tossed up between this thing and about 4 other cards for so long, and I just chose Regice to be the best option for me. So this could really be an Articuno, it could be a White Kyurem, it could be a Suicune, or it could be, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this one, Aurora Ex, the promo one, which isn't a bad attacker either. It's not my favorite attacker without Muscle Band in the format. I chose Regice just because I think we are leaning into a more EX dominated format. Articuno is very good against Volcanion, especially that baby Volcanion without a Fury Belt. If you flip 1 heads, you're one-shotting it and taking 2 prizes for it, which is just insane. If you flip 2 heads, you're knocking out the EX and taking 3 prizes for it. I just didn't think really you needed it in the matchup. You're already playing pretty much everything in here is water Pokemon except for the 2 Shaman. So all of your Pokemon water, you don't really care too much about the Volcanion matchup because you're probably going to win anyway. So that's why I decided not to play the Articuno. There aren't a lot of low HP Pokemon doing well at the moment. Mew's the only one I can think about. It's not really worth playing 1 Mew just for the Yveltal Mew match or a Rogue Mew match. Like, it's not worth it from what I've tested. I think Regice is a little better. White Kyurem's very good. Hits for 130 for 3 energies. Basic Pokemon, non-EX attacker. Very strong attack. It can't attack during its next turn. But I just think those energies are kind of being wasted there. Primal Kyogre hits for 150. And I can't think of too many circumstances where you're going to need a 130 HP attacker. 130. Well, it is 130 HP, but a 130 HP attack as well. Suicune doesn't really do much at the moment. It would prevent things such as Trevenant before. I can't think of too many circumstances where Suicune's really going to pop up. 110 damage is nice. Or does it 100? I think it actually only does 100. I think you need a Fury Belt to do 110. So Suicune really doesn't do much. And Aurora Morris EX, 160 damage. I've already talked about it. Regice is just my favorite attacker. But yeah, this can be anything that you wish. I just prefer Regice. Resistance Blizzard is a very strong attack, 70 damage, and during your next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. If your opponent in Mewtwo isn't playing Ranger, you could stall them out. Just keep Resistance Blizzard. They can't damage change onto you, so you do have a very good matchup there. They're going to have to start Lysandering targets. Even then, you can still kind of just run them out of resources, especially if they have that explosive turn to start. Ice Beam's also very good. 2 energies, 30 damage, and you flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Paralysis is one of my favorite special conditions in the format. I wish this was auto paralysis, but as I said previously, auto paralysis is not really a good thing for the format. This Resistance Blizzard attack though is very good. It stops a lot of EX Pokemon running over you. Things like Mega Rayquaza can really slow them down entirely if they're not able to Ranger. Also, just putting an energy onto this Regice just to tease this Resistance Blizzard can force your opponent to Lysander this thing up and try and knock this out. Which sometimes is actually what you want. Can just kind of prevent them from taking the knockouts on these Kyogres, prevent them from taking 2 prizes just by placing an energy on this Regice, or even just benching this Regice. Now, finally, to round out the Pokemon, 2 Shaman EX. Setup's a really good ability. You don't really Sky Return with this deck. You can, but you're hardly ever going to do it. The only circumstances where I think you're going to Sky Return is if you have this Kyogre up and you've got no bench Pokemon other than a Shaman, you have to move 2 energies. So they do have to go into that Shaman, then you might want to Sky Return to get the energies back. That's about all you will ever use Shaman for. So that's the Pokemon. We're going to look at the supporters now. A very thin line of supporters. A couple of things I wish I could change about this, which we'll talk about in a moment. So we're playing a 3-3 N Sycamore account. I really don't dislike discarding cards in this deck. That's why I play 3N. Also, Primal Kyogre is a little bit slower to get started and start taking knockouts, so I think N's a lot better. Sycamore, of course, the best draw support. Usually I'd play 4. I'm just playing 3 at the moment just because I really dislike having to discard cards early on with this deck. There's not much I can say about that. N is just really good. Shuffle Draw is really good, and Sycamore best draw support. Finally, I just play 3, one of supporters. I wish I could play more in this deck, but I have been testing and I haven't really found the need for it. We're playing 1 Lysander, 1 Hex, and 1 Fisherman. Lysander was probably the one I wish I could play a 2 of. I think 2 Lysander in this would be heaps good, just because Primal Kyogre is really good at knocking out those low HP Pokemon. Also things with 180 HP, 170 HP. Just because if you Tidal Wave once, do 32 bench Pokemon, then you can Lysander it up and do 150. It's kind of the magic number. 180 is knockout most basic EX Pokemon. I would have liked a second Lysander in here, but there's not much space for it. Next we have the Hexmaniac. Hexmaniac's just really good. Shuts off abilities. There's not much to say about Hexmaniac. And Fisherman is for when your Primal Kyogres do go down, or also if you have to discard energies for whatever reason with like an Ultra Ball. We are playing quite a bit of energies in here. Fisherman's just really good, especially if you're just running out of energy. You need an energy in hand to attach to a Primal Kyogre. Fisherman can really fetch them out for you and help with that. We're going to play 4 VS Seekers in here, as is standard. 3 Ultra Balls. 10 of our 12 Pokemon are water types. So we play 3 Dive Ball, 3 Ultra Ball. Dive Ball's probably going to be better used for us here. The only real need for Ultra Ball is for that Shaman. Firstly, to search for it and discarding our cards in our hand to Shaman for more cards. I haven't really found a need for the 4th Ultra Ball. If I was to make one change to this deck and put a Hooper into it, I think a 4th Ultra Ball is needed then. Hooper was a card I considered, considering I'm playing so many EX Pokemon. 11 EX Pokemon to be exact. Only 1 non-EX Pokemon in here. So Hooper's a really good addition if you do want to make the space for Hooper. Definitely try and make space for the 4th Ultra Ball. You could just drop a Dive Ball in that case and add a 4th Ultra Ball. I'm going to play 4 Trainer's Mail in here. I just think Trainer's Mail is really good, especially with our low support account. It's just going to help us draw through our cards a bit quicker, get the cards that we need to start powering up this Primal Kyogre. 1 Super Rod, just for when things get knocked out, just when we're a bit behind and need some more cards in our deck. Super Rod's just a good card. There's not much to say about that. Professor's Letter, a card that isn't seeing too much play at the moment, nor has it really in a while. It's really good in Primal Kyogre. Primal Kyogre, you do need 2 energies to get the full effect of its Alpha trait ability. So the Alpha Growth trait. So being able to just search for 2 energies with Professor's Letter is great. That's pretty much it for Professor's Letter. We play a 2-2 split of Mega Turbo and Max Elixir. Reason for this is, firstly, we do kind of want to start powering up our Glaceon and Regice, depending on the matchup, pretty early, because they both are 3 energy attackers. So being able to get energies onto them quick's really good. The other reason is to actually power up our Kyogre. It's a tough situation, really. If you Max Elixir to a Kyogre, then attach to a Kyogre, and the next turn Primal Evolve, you can then attach to and you've got your 4. Alternatively, you could attach to a Kyogre, Primal Evolve, attach to a Mega Turbo. It's tough to really decide which one I prefer in here. I think I'll probably usually hit a Mega Turbo more, but Max Elixir is a bit more versatile, and I can do it first turn, which means I'm not going to risk having to Sycamore away a Mega Turbo, which could lower my chances of getting the turn 2 Primal Kyogre attack. Next up, we got 1 Escape Rope in here. We do have Manaphy to retreat. This is just kind of another switching effect, just in case we get Hexmaniac'd. And it's also just being able to bring up one of our opponent's Pokemon on the bench, especially doing 30 to the bench Pokemon. Can really put your opponent in a circumstance where it's like, well, what Pokemon do you want me to knock out here? You could swap this out for a second Lysander. It's really up to you. I just felt like a Hexmaniac could really hurt, especially with Primal Kyogre having to move 2 energies off of it, and relying solely off Manaphy isn't something I love to do, but the Escape Rope is just another option for you. And finally, to round out the training cards here, or the item cards, is 2 Max Potion. Max Potion is a really good card in Primal Kyogre. You are moving 2 energies away from this Primal Kyogre when you attack. So you've only got 2 energies on there. A Max Potion to discard 2 energies is not a big deal. Especially when you're being attacked for something like 200 damage, 220 damage. Max Potion is so good in this deck. Like I said before, as a given example, Mega Scizor needs to attack you 3 times. If they attack you once, you Rough Seize. They attack you a second time, you Max Potion, then they have to attack you once again, you Rough Seize, and then they have to attack you another 2 times. It can make the Mega Scizor matchup pretty much unwinnable for the Scizor player. It could make things like Yveltal's hard work be all for nothing. It can make things such as Mewtwo's, all the energy they stack onto that Mewtwo, just worthless if they're not knocking you out. Things like Mega Rayquaza can really destroy Mega Rayquaza's setup if you just Max Potion all the damage off and then just go into another Primal Kyogre and start swinging. I really like having 2 in here. I just really love Max Potion in this deck. Finally, for stadiums, we're going to play 3 Rough Seize, just to heal the 30 off of our water Pokemon. I did consider playing a 2 Rough Seize and 1 Parallel City just for Rayquaza, just so it's harder for them to really come back from it. Honestly, I think if you're able to drop a Rough Seize and a Hex Maniac, you're probably going to be alright. It's really difficult for Mega Rayquaza players to firstly get 8 Pokemon on the bench, and then to keep 8 Pokemon on the bench consistently. So I think just the Rough Seize is fine. You could drop 1 to play a Parallel City if you wish, though, if you're finding Mega Rayquaza a bit tough of a matchup. I think this matchup really does depend on a lot of things with Mega Ray. I think usually Mega Rayquaza is probably going to have a better advantage, but I don't think it's too bad. It's definitely winnable. Bit harder than some of the other matches, though. Next, we've got 3 Kyogre Spearlings because we're playing 3-3 Primal Evolution. Yeah, that's pretty much standard with any 3-3 Mega Line. And finally, to round out the deck, 10 Water Energies. So we're not playing any special energies in here because Primal Kyogre's attack is a 3 Water, 1 Colorless. I did consider playing Splash Energy in this deck. However, if I think, my thought process was I'm playing Max Elixirs and Mega Turbos. If I start playing Splash Energies, even like 2 of, you do start to kind of run the risk of not hitting these Max Elixirs or not hitting these Mega Turbos. Professor's Letter becomes a lot less useful. So I think I just decided to just play the basic energies for now. Maybe Splash Energies could be an introduction into the deck later on. So that is the deck list. We're going to jump in and have a couple of games with this and see how we go. Alrighty, and here we go into the game. Let's see what my opponent is playing. We're going to see, this is Dark Giratina Garbodor, or that could just be a Hooper. Either way, if it's Garbodor, it's a bit more scary. If it's just a Hooper, that's not too bad. Of course, Primal Kyogre does fall under the Mega category, so Giratina sucks, but it's not the worst. So we are going to mulligan here. My opponent's going to mulligan as well. We do see an Enhanced Hammer. Parallel City is kind of an annoying card. It could make us do 20 less damage, which is not the best. My opponent probably thinks I'm playing something like Greninja here. And we are going to start with perhaps the most random hand you could ever get on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. 2 Primal Kyogres, a Kyogre, 3 Trainer's Mails, and a Dive Ball. I'm just hoping we can get something good off of these Trainer's Mails. And let's see what my opponent starts with. I actually would have preferred not starting with Kyogre in this matchup. It might seem a bit weird to want that, but I think if my opponent just doesn't think I'm playing Primal Kyogre, it can be a lot better, especially going second. I would have liked if I was starting with the Regice or Glaceon, or even Manaphy, but it's fine, I guess. So my opponent's going to Ultra Ball here. They're probably going to chase a Hooper here to get themselves probably 2 Giratinas and a Darkrai, 2 Giratinas and a Shaman, and a Giratina and Darkrai Shaman. I think one of these 3 Pokemon is definitely going to be the Giratina. Giratina is really a big card. I do only play 1 Hex Maniac. If I've prized it, this matchup does become a bit scary. So Darkrai, Giratina, and a Shaman. However, Hooper, 170 HP. If there's really no way to get rid of this, they could Ninja Boy. But you know, what's the point of just Ninja Boying a Hooper for your supporter for the turn? So being able to do 30 damage to this thing, and then being able to Lyciano to do 150 is really good. The Darkrai's already got the Fury Bolt coming down, so at Shamans, of course, we can easily one-shot those. There's 2 of them down already, which is going to be really good for us. I'm just really hoping we can hit something good off of these Trainer's Mails. We're going to find a Water Energy, which is actually really good. You do want to be able to attach consistently with this deck. We're going to take the Spirit Link. Good thing is, my opponent really isn't going to be able to knock us out so early on into the game. We're going to Trainer's Mail once again, find a Dive Ball. I actually probably should have played these Dive Balls. We're going to play these Dive Balls now, just to lower the cards in our hand. That was kind of a misplay by me. I should have played those Dive Balls first. It looks like we have prized a Kyogre. So there's Dive Ball number 1. Dive Ball number 2 will probably fetch us. I want to keep this Regice in deck, because Regice is really going to be a savior in this matchup. If my opponent isn't playing something such as Pokemon Ranger, then that Regice does become such a good card here. And we were looking for something a little bit better than this. We're going to take the Professor's Letter or the Spirit Link. We'll take the Professor's Letter. We won't play it just yet. We're going to attach a Water to the bench. And we'll just pass. I kind of want to keep the Professor's Letter just in case my opponent does N. I don't think my opponent played a supporter last turn either. They did Ultra Ball away an N. So they might be forced here to N us, which is fantastic. My hand wasn't the best. I would have got a Primal Kyogre next turn. I probably should have played that Spirit Link. I don't know why I didn't play that. But we do draw into such a better hand here. We're going to see a Max Elixir from my opponent. Going on to that Darkrai, if they can't retreat this Shaman here, we might actually be able to do something really good. If my opponent's going to leave the Shaman up. Okay, so Glaceon's really not going to be too much use for us here. I should have played the Spirit Link. That's one card I am regretting not playing. We're going to go for an Ultra Ball here. We will discard these 2. Getting the energy in the discard to potentially set up for a Mega Turbo play. Playing that Spirit Link was kind of where my downfall here is, because I'm not sure if I'm going to really be able to hit all of this now. So we're going to Shaman set up to draw 2. That's a really odd situation for us. I'm just going to attach to the active and Mega. And then next turn I can Professor's Letter, get 2, and hopefully end myself into a Mega Turbo. I could Escape Rope. I don't really want that Shaman out. I'd rather them have to commit the energy to retreat. We've got 240 HP. It's going to take a lot for them to knock us out here. Basically everything's going to really be a 3-shot, which is kind of what we want here. Going to see a VS Seeker. My opponent probably forced to take an N as well, which is alright. I'm hoping we get a somewhat decent hand from this. Again, we're going to keep the Professor's Letter. There's no point really playing Professor's Letter if you're not going to be attaching those energies straight away. And we're going to find ourselves another Professor's Letter, as well as a Max Potion, which I don't really want to play. And my opponent's going to pass again. This is really our turn to do something big here. We're going to Professor's Letter. I'm only going to take the 1 energy because I already have 1 in hand. And we're going to go for Max Elixir in hopes of hitting this. And we do. So this means we can really set up multiple Kyogres here. We're going to attach 1 energy. We can attach a 2nd energy to this Pokemon. And then we're just going to go for the Sycamore here. Drawing a fresh hand of 7. If we can hit the Mega Turbo, which we do, we are going to be taking the first 2 prizes of this game. Now, I do draw into another Primal Kyogre. I might hold on to it for 1 turn. We're going to Tidal Storm, and look at this, 30 to everything. Because my opponent is playing all EX Pokemon here. So we do have to move our 2 energies off onto this Kyogre. So next time we are going to want to try and Primal Kyogre this thing. Of course it doesn't hit the Giratina because of Giratina's Renegade Pulse ability, but 30 damage to everything else. And we're going to see a Max Potion, a Hex Maniac. Hex Maniac's the big card here. So my opponent going to promote this Darkrai EX. We are going to need to somehow find 2 more energies for us here. I'm hoping my opponent doesn't Hex Maniac. We're going to see an Ultra Ball from my opponent. Let's see, what else are they going to grab here? Probably just another Giratina EX. That's probably their best bet. Oh, they actually failed the search. And we're going to see a Super Rod from my opponent. Shuffling back into Shaman and Dark. I bet they wish they did that first. And we're going to see a Sycamore from my opponent. Never mind. I was really hoping that that wasn't anything and they were banking on having another Shaman in deck. My opponent got a Sycamore here. They're currently hitting us for 20, 40, 60. My opponent dropping down the Parallel City, getting rid of the Shaman. That's a very good play. However, there still is this Hooper and a Darkrai up. I'm not too sure how much my opponent's hitting. 150. We do have a Max Potion in hand. So one thing we're going to be able to do here is, firstly, we're going to be able to retreat into Kyogre X. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to Max Potion, healing all the damage off of this guy. We're then going to Super Rod. We do discard 2 energies. We're going to Super Rod back in the 2 energies, and we do have to take the Glaceon. I shouldn't have done that, actually. That was a misplay. I should have Ultra Balled away the Primal Kyogre. That's okay. We're going to Ultra Ball here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Ultra Ball away the N and the Hex Maniac. Now I know I've got that Shaman in there. I'm going to take this Glaceon EX. And now I'm going to Ultra Ball away the Glaceon and the Sycamore. And hopefully from this Shaman I can draw a good 5 cards. I really want to hit a Spirit Link. I believe I've got 3 in deck. I haven't attached one, so all 3 Spirit Links are in deck. We do also have access to VS Seekers and such. I don't particularly want to end here, but I might be forced to. A Lysander would be nice to bring up this Darkrai EX. We're going to Shaman set up to draw 5 cards here. Luckily we hit the Spirit Link. We get the Primal. We actually haven't attached an energy either, so we're going to set ourselves up in a good position here, where we are really just going to be able to rotate between these Primal Kyogres. Now we could escape rope, there's no real need to, we can't retreat, so we're just going to attack here, setting this thing up for perhaps the nicest damage possible. No it's not, never mind. I thought it was going up to 180 to then be a potential knockout there. Never mind. So only 10 to these guys, just because it's the Parallel City. It would have gone up to 180, which is the perfect number, because then we could have licensed up another guy and hit this thing for 30 and take in multiple prizes. That is not the case, just due to this Parallel City being down. Hopefully we can draw into a supporter. I did unfortunately have to get rid of some supporter cards. Another energy going down to the Giratina. They're going to start really packing up the damage here. The question is, do they stay on this Darkrai EX or not? They're going to take an N, which I actually am thankful for. My hand was really bad. They probably thought I did so much last turn and I discarded supporters that they probably thought I played a supporter. And we find ourselves a VS Seeker, which is going to find ourselves one of 2 cards. So 150, 150 take 130. So we can knock out the Hooper and go down to 2 prizes. My opponent is going to retreat into this thing, so I am going to not allow this to happen. Of course, I do want to be able to do damage, so I'm just going to, not do that, attach. And I think we're just going to go for the prize card here. So let me just double check the maths here. What have we got? So 150, take 20 was 130. Hooper's got that, exactly enough. And we're going to set ourselves up in a position where this Darkrai is so close to being knocked out. Even this Darkrai, unfortunately the Parallel City being down is hurting us quite a bit. As long as that Giratina keeps attacking us, we're not going to really be able to do much about it. We are going to Tidal Storm, however, for knocking out the Hooper. We may as well just put all of our energies onto this guy. We can then next turn retreat, assuming they go up into the Giratina, because if they don't, they can put themselves in a really bad position, where if we do find another stadium, we can potentially win. So we're going to find ourselves an N and a Kyogre. We can start to power up this guy. Not that it's really necessary at this point. My opponent is going to promote this Darkrai, probably looking for the knockout this turn. However, that's a wrong move without a Fury Belt, because we will be hitting for exactly a knockout without a Fury Belt. I'm assuming my opponent's definitely going to play here. There is no way they would just risk this Darkrai up here. We're going to see this Shaman set up for 2. Which again is very risky play, playing down this Shaman. We're going to see a Float Stone coming down. There's 2 Fury Belts down. They probably play 3 Fury Belts. So my opponent definitely really banking on... They should have actually switched into the Shaman as well. We're going to see a Max Elixir from my opponent. Even if they knock us out, it's just not good. Oh, okay, so we are actually going to win this game, I believe. 50, then, yeah, okay. We're going to promote this Primal Kyogre. And just to double check, take 20, 150, 130. That is the knockout. Primal Kyogre is going to beat Darkrai Giratina here, unless I've done something wrong. Nope, my opponent probably didn't realize that. They probably thought they had the Fury Belt, probably thought they were still going to survive. But Primal Kyogre was going to take the game. This was kind of a longish game, so I'm just going to leave it at the 1 game today. Kind of shows off Primal Kyogre, even against what I thought was going to be a bad matchup. It was quite a good matchup, and it also showed how consistent this deck can really be, and how strong it can be, especially when your opponent benches 5 EX Pokemon in the first turn, despite one of them being a Giratina. I think my opponent probably handled that game a bit wrong. No offense to my opponent, but I think there was definitely some move there that they could have done a bit different there. But regardless, we are going to take the game. We did take 4 prizes against support Pokemon, so we really only knocked out 1 attacker in that game. But that's just kind of showing off Primal Kyogre, a deck that I think actually pretty damn good at the moment. A deck that I think is very underrated in this format, and a deck that I wouldn't be surprised if it did really well at some events, especially the early standard events. Volcanion and Mega Mewtwo are probably going to be 2 of the most played decks, along with Sizzle. I don't think Mega Ray is going to see too much play. Even if it does, the matchup's not horrible. You can still win against Mega Ray Quasar. It's tough, but definitely not impossible. But without Karen, I don't think we're going to see too much Mega Ray. And of course, the horrible matchup that you never want to see is Vespiquen. If you hit Vespiquen, you pretty much take the auto loss, unless you're able to set up a Glaceon and they've prized the Ranger, or they don't play Ranger, or they don't play any basic Pokemon, then you can beat it. But that was Primal Kyogre, guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to Pokestraya. Also, like us on Facebook. Hopefully, I can start to bring out some different stuff that's not the Pokemon trading card game online over the next couple of days. As I said, I have been pretty busy. It's kind of a busy period in the year at the moment. So thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.